now for the award-winning #1 local talk show in Northeast Pennsylvania, The Sam Lesante Show. Now here's your host, Sam Lesante.
Welcome to the St. John Bosco 50th Anniversary Sam Lesante Show, folks. From the archives, let me read you a letter. It reads, "We, the undersigned, request that a census be taken of the Conyngham and Sugarloaf Township area. We feel the Catholic population has become large enough to support a church or a mission." The letter I just quoted from was signed by 19 families and sent to the Bishop of Scranton on July 19, 1959, and led to the establishment of a Catholic parish in Conyngham named St. John Bosco. We welcome you to come on a journey with us as we trace the steps of how this beautiful church in the valley came to be and the many changes that have occurred leading up to its 50th anniversary. Today's Sam Lesante Show on the 50th anniversary of St. John Bosco is brought to you in part by Dr. Thomas Kislin of Hazelton and Strasburg Eye Specialists and the Seach Law Offices in Drums. St. John Bosco Church was built in 1963, but it was back in 1947 when the land on Route 93 was purchased by the late Bishop William Hafey, acting on what turned out to be great foresight. This farm field lay dormant for years, and then the petition of 1959 began circulating amongst the families in the valley. The census, to the surprise of many, revealed that more than 100 Catholic families were traveling considerable distances to attend services at various churches in the Hazelton area. A letter of approval and authorization for further discussion of the proposal was received from the bishop on June 6, 1961. Construction of St. John Bosco Church was begun early in 1963, and on December 15, 1963, the church was dedicated by the late Bishop of Scranton, Jerome Hannon. In its initial year, naturally there was some firsts for St. John Bosco. The first baptism that was celebrated in the church was Michael Anthony Malak on March 29, 1964. On July 4th, Carol Hyde and Michael Dwiniak exchanged their vows as the first couple to be married in St. John Bosco Church. The first ever Holy Communion class was composed of 9 girls and 6 boys. Now, if you look closely, you will see a very young Linda Basic, the administrative assistant of the current pastor Jack Lambert. The first communion class celebrated reception of the Holy Eucharist on June 28, 1964. The church stood by itself for 10 years until September of 1973, when ground was broken for the parish center and educational unit, the Monsignor Casey Center, and the building was completed and ready for use in early 1974. The church and parish center, existing side by side for 15 plus years, served the parishioners well. But in the fall of 1988, as the parish celebrated its 25th year, plans were laid for an ambitious building and expansion program, and the parish continued to grow and flourish. Designs were developed and approved for a new nave, a new educational unit named after the late and beloved Sister Anne Bernadette McCaw. Groundbreaking took place on Sunday, May 10, 1992, and construction occurred throughout the summer and the fall. The new church was dedicated on December 6, 1992. At that time, there were 1,002 families registered in the parish. In its 50-year history, St. John Bosco has been blessed with many kind and caring pastors. The 10 that preceded our current pastor, Father Jack Lambert, are Father Joseph Shaughnessy, the first pastor. Father Edward Gallagher was the second pastor. Father Robert Galligan, the third pastor. Father Paul Van Manen was pastor number 4. Pastor number 5 was Monsignor George Casey. The 6th pastor was Father Robert Gibson. Father Charles Cummings was the 7th pastor, and Father John Mano followed him as 8th pastor. Monsignor Joseph Bambera, now the Bishop of Scranton, was the 9th pastor, and Father Joseph Ivanko was the 10th pastor. Yes, the parishioners of St. John Bosco had many wonderful memories over the last 50 years. Now let's spend some time with its current pastor, Father Jack Lambert, and learn about the most recent changes that have occurred inside and outside the church and what the next 50 years may look like. Today's Sam Lesante Show on the 50th anniversary of St. John Bosco is brought to you in part by Dr. Thomas Kislin of Hazelton and Strasburg Eye Specialists and the Seach Law Offices in Drums. And welcome back to the 50th anniversary St. John Bosco Sam Lesante Show. And now we are here in the church with the current pastor, Father Jack Lambert. And Father, let me just say this, congratulations on great renovation, what you did here at the church.
Thanks.
As we talked before, I thought the way the church is laid out, and you explained it so eloquently as to what it means. Could you give our viewers that tour?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Thanks for coming here. I think it's very difficult to really see it unless you sit down and reflect upon it, or come down and really look intently at the place. I think Father Mano, when he did the renovation in 1992, did a wonderful job, because he combined the existing church with this addition right here. But it's not just something that's tacked on to the original church. If you were to look around the place, it really is a contemporary or a modern interpretation of a very ancient form of the church. All the ancient churches were in the shape of a cross, a cruciform. So you'd have the body of the church with its two arms, and then over here the sanctuary. And this very much is the same thing. Although all of the people gather as the church, the ceiling represents quite beautifully that kind of interpretation. If you'll notice, we have this long piece right here, which would be the body, or the main part of the church, and then the cross right here, and then the Blessed Sacrament here. Beautifully, we have a skylight, which represents all of that right in the center. So it's the ceiling that really gives this place its real depth of meaning and interpretation. And unless you were to come in and look at it, you might not get that. So then when we come and we gather, all spaces, churches, exist for one particular thing: to offer sacrifice to God. And that is done on the altar. The altar is the centerpiece of every church. And so what we've done for our renovation is I took the existing, or the original altar right here, and so many of the parishioners would be reminded of that symbol. That was placed in the back as a daily chapel. And because we need the room now, I moved it up here to be our main altar. So I repurposed the original altar, and then we added this top, and now it becomes the focal point of the church, right here in the middle of the cross. So that's a very important and significant piece. And when Bishop Bambera consecrated this, he poured the sacred chrism on the 5 spots, the 5 wounds of Christ, and there's a cross carved in to each of the corners and one in the center. It reminds us of the 5 wounds of Christ, which are now anointed and consecrated for our use. And in the back, he placed in the relics. We have a relic of a martyr from the 1st century. We have a relic from Pius X, St. Pius X. We have a relic of St. John Newman, and a relic of St. Bernadette Soubirous. And so we have those in the altar, and he placed them there. And so it reminds us that not only do we offer sacrifice to God on this, but those individuals offered their very life, just like Christ, to God. And then it's very fitting that, and the documents of Vatican II remind us that there has to be a stationary crucifix on or near every altar in every Catholic church. And so we have used the original crucifix that was part of the original church. So this crucifix hung over this altar 50 years ago. we repurposed it and hung it right here and suspended it. So we kind of get that idea that the cross of Christ is suspended in time, would be a big way to see it. But more importantly, it gives us that interpretation that God is right in the midst of everything in the perfect sacrifice of Jesus Christ. So I find that incredibly powerful, and I think the people in the community here at St. John's really appreciate it and like it. One of the nice things that I believe that we did is we finished the cross over here. You can see the outline of it, Sam. Before, we had pretty much half of it, and then the Blessed Sacrament was reserved over here. So what we did was we completed the picture, if you would, to once again remind ourselves or remodel ourselves into that cross. As the cross is the building, as the cross is the ceiling, then we forward and we see the cross right before us. And then beautifully, the crucifix is suspended before it. We stone the wall to give it it goes well with the text, the construction of the place, but it also gives it a grounding. It's a beautiful interpretation. And then the Blessed Sacrament is reserved in the tabernacle, which means house in Hebrew, right there. And then, of course, the other significant piece that we have would be the ambo. This was actually configured originally at 1992, and then this front piece was added by one of the parishioners in honor of then Monsignor, who was pastor here. His wife passed away, and then they added this piece. And so I honored both of those, the original piece and then the piece that was added in honor of now Bishop Bambera, and then I just marbled it to tie in with the altar here. And so you'll hear a lot now about the Holy Father talking about the Word and the sacrament. So they are significant pieces in our worship. We have a presider's chair which matches the seats in the community here. And so these constitute the central focus of what we do in our worship. Then you might recognize the baptismal font that we have repurposed. The original font, the circular one, is the original font. And the first child baptized in it is now a parishioner here, and his kids go to church here. So that's really neat. We have the flowing water because it reminds us that our baptism is always flowing behind us in everything we do. Symbolized with the Paschal candle, the light of Jesus Christ, and then our risen Lord is pictured right above it. So we are baptized, initiated into the life of Christ, and then Christ, the fullness, resides in God in the resurrection.
If you just tuned in, folks, we're talking to Father Jack Lambert, who is the pastor here at St. John Bosco, and they're celebrating 50 years of blessings in the greater Scranton Diocese. We come back, we'll talk a little bit more about the church and the meaning, what all this means to individuals. Stay with us. Today's Sam Lesante Show on the 50th anniversary of St. John Bosco is brought to you in part by Dr. Thomas Kislin of Hazelton and Strasburg Eye Specialists and the Seach Law Offices in Drums. Welcome back to the Sam Lesante Show, folks. We're celebrating 50 years of service at St. John Bosco Parish. Remember 24/7 SSPTV.com. You can watch any of our shows. My email, folks, sam@ssptv.com. Very happy to have Father Jack Lambert, who is the pastor at St. John Bosco here. Father, you explained what you did inside the church, and just briefly, you did something outside the church as well.
Yes. I wanted to highlight, can I say, a transitional moment. So when people are coming to church, they usually come, I have to say, practically through two doors. You know that. A door over here, a door over here. But I wanted them to kind of get the sense as they are moving into a sacred space that there is a transition moment to help prepare them for the importance and the significance of what we do here. And so we had a wonderful, I think it's a movement of the Spirit. I was interested in placing a statue of the Blessed Mother outside, and I didn't know where to get it, and and all of that, and it just so happened that I was at a clergy meeting, and one of the area priests said that from the church that he is now at, they have a grotto, and they have no longer a use for it. So we were able to get from St. Mary's in Latimer a statue of the Blessed Mother, Our Lady of Lourdes. And so beautifully then we were able to do it with some work from the parishioners outside, and put a water feature outside too. So the water reminds us of Our Lady of Lourdes, St. Bernadette, whose relic is in the altar, dug before the Blessed Mother, and there a pool appeared. So we have an image of that. So it reminds people of the sacredness of all things around us. And moving into here, it becomes very specific then. So the importance then of coming into here is that, yes, we can find God in nature, and God is the creator of all things, but very specifically would be a good way to see it. Specifically, we celebrate our salvation in the sacrifice of Jesus Christ. So when we come and we hear the word, the story of our salvation, and then we celebrate the body and blood of Jesus Christ in our communion with the body of Christ, we celebrate in a very concrete and specific way that faith that we celebrate.
And that seems to be a concern when I'm doing various shows. People say, Sam, you know, I'm a Catholic, and yes, I really don't think I have to go to church. I pray, I'm a good person, I take care of my parents, or I give charity, and they do all these great things. And so I feel, you know, if I'm praying at home, I really don't have to go to a celebration such as this. What do you say to people like that, Father?
I think a good, virtuous life like that is very good. It's the goal of everyone. But I think you have to take it another step. I liken it to the idea that you are a TV personality. Well, what would it be like if you told me, you know, hey, Father, you know, I'm a TV personality, and I say, oh, and when are you on TV? Well, I'm not on TV. I like to watch TV, but I'm not on TV. Well, you're not really a personality on TV then. You happen to have a personality who watches TV, you see? For the Catholic, this is central. And the dilemma is that they might not have enough information. They might be lacking in some formation. That's not a judgment. It's just an invitation then for that individual to seek out something that might not be setting right with them, and then come to understand that in this particular sacrifice is their life. That's what it means to be Catholic.
I find that quite interesting, and I think that some people, hopefully by listening to what you said, we have Catholics who may want to come back to the celebration. And it is a celebration.
It is.
You know. I could just say this, congratulations, all the parishioners here, the beautiful church. And folks, if you have not, whether you're Catholic, Protestant, or whatever, come down here. You're going to be very impressed. It's such a beautiful setting here, a great time to just reflect and thank the good Lord for what you have in life. And Father, thank you so much for your time. Okay, you're watching the 50th anniversary celebration at St. John Bosco, a Sam Lesante special. Remember, you can watch this show anywhere in the world, 24/7 on ssptv.com. We'll see you next time. Today's Sam Lesante Show on the 50th anniversary of St. John Bosco is brought to you in part by Dr. Thomas Kislin of Hazelton and Strasburg Eye Specialists and the Seach Law Offices in Drums.